Welcome back to Mac School Prep TV. In today's video, we are going to be starting part one of our two-part series completely dedicated to covering everything related to extracurricular activities and engaging in community service. If you do not know, my name is Mackenzie Warren. I'm the founder of Mac School Prep, and my mission is to do everything in my power to make sure that you take advantage of your education and not just survive, but thrive in high school. Before we go ahead and jump into the content, which I am sure you are dying to do, I just want to give you a friendly reminder now to give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and also go ahead and hit that notification bell so that you can stay in the loop with all that I have to offer. And on that note, no more delay, it's time, let's get it. So, speaking from firsthand experience, I would first like to start off by discussing some very important things that I learned about the scholarship and college application processes. Now, just like I said several times throughout the Mac School Prep video completely dedicated to building a strong academic track record, yes, having a strong transcript, having a high GPA, and performing well on standardized tests like the SAT and the ACT will 100% enable you to get your foot in the door. But you cannot take for granted the fact that scholarship review committees and admissions panels of highly selective colleges and universities place a premium on holistic review when evaluating applicants. What this means is that they want to understand you as a whole person by taking into account every component of your application and not just focusing solely on the empirical and objective parts like your GPA or your standardized test scores. In other words, college admissions committees as well as scholarship review boards are actively searching for well-rounded students who aren't just talented in the classroom, but who are also leaders and public servants who seek to make a positive impact on society. I mean, let's face it, if we focus on the top 20 universities in the United States, every student that gets admitted into those schools is super duper smart, something indicated by not only their great SAT or ACT scores, but also their high GPA and their super strong academic transcript. It's definitely not an exaggeration when I say that the majority of the students at those schools graduated in the top 10% of their high school class. But don't get me wrong here. Just because an applicant is the valedictorian or the salutatorian of their high school class, that doesn't mean that they're gonna be a shoo-in at these highly selective colleges and universities. When these colleges are reviewing applications, they're looking to admit a three-dimensional human, someone who is dynamic, someone who has character and personality. The student who comes across as the bookworm isn't necessarily gonna be the ideal candidate, because trust me when I say that it's more impressive to these colleges when they see a student who has successfully been able to balance their schoolwork with extracurricular activities and community service. In other words, students who have been able to perform at a high level in the classroom as well as make valuable contributions to their surrounding community and society at large by engaging in various activities are undoubtedly going to be hot commodities in the eyes of colleges and scholarship organizations. Now, moving on to our next point of discussion, I would now like to touch on what the heck are extracurriculars. Basically, they are activities that fall outside of the realm of normal school education, meaning they can include but are certainly not limited to sports, music, camps, Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts, etc. You get the point. But it's really important that you understand that extracurriculars should revolve around things that you love to do, meaning that you definitely shouldn't discount hobbies or any hidden talents that you may have. With that said, the next logical thought for you to probably have is, okay, Mackenzie, well, why are extracurriculars so important? So, first off, what I'd like to say is that involvement in extracurriculars puts you in a position to bring new experiences and new perspectives to the classroom, which is something that is undeniably valued by colleges and universities, especially considering that many professors place a premium on creating a classroom environment that's brought to life by student discussion, dialogue, and debate. Another reason that extracurricular involvement is so important is because on scholarship and college applications, there's an entire section that's meant for you to flesh out your extracurricular activities. The activities that you list can be categorized as school involvement, employment, employment, or community service, to name a few. However, just know that you should be prepared to detail the activity, your roles and responsibilities, your accomplishments, your approximate dates of participation, and your time commitment. Also, when you're applying to colleges and scholarships, there's no way around it. You're gonna have to submit essays in response to prompts inquiring about things like your successes and failures, the most significant impact you've made on a community, your greatest achievement or accomplishment, and how you solved the problem that you've identified. If it's not obvious to you already, you're definitely gonna have a hard time brainstorming ideas for these essays if you're a couch potato, or if all you do is eat, sleep, and breathe school. So the lesson here is that the worst thing you can do during your high school career, including during the summertime, is be idle. Basically, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. If you want to stand a chance in the competitive applicant pool for highly selective colleges and universities, you're gonna want to make sure that you are participating in extracurricular activities that keep you busy and stimulate your mind outside of the classroom environment, and also during summer break. The last thing I have for you in regards to why extracurricular involvement is so important is that I completely understand that the workload in high school is very time consuming and stressful, which is actually something that students often use as an excuse to give up extracurriculars and to stop indulging in the activities that they love. However, the bottom line is that balancing academics and extracurriculars doesn't just look good on your resume, but is also something that benefits your mental health and sanity, as well as contributes to your personal development and growth. For example, extracurriculars give you an outlet to take your mind off of school and also create bonds with really great people who you can add to your support network. Alrighty, switching gears to our final point of discussion for this video, I would now like to talk about some general pro tips that you should keep in mind when it comes to extracurriculars. My pro tip number one is don't just participate in an activity for the sole purpose of adding it to your resume or because your parents are forcing you to do it. Instead, you should do something because you love it, because you light up when you talk about it, because it fills you with a sense of purpose, fulfillment, and conviction. Trust me when I say that colleges and scholarship organizations will have no trouble discerning whether you are sincerely and wholeheartedly passionate about your extracurriculars or whether you're just pretentious and purely involved in them for show. Moving on to my pro tip number two, once you've identified your interests, it's vital that you completely immerse yourself in those passions. And so what I mean is that, yeah, of course it's great for you to have a hobby that you do at home. Maybe you draw in your free time or something. But it's even better to get involved with organizations, including jobs and internships and programs in general that allow you to delve deeper into your passions by honing your skills and truly putting them to use. I also recommend that you take classes at school that align with your interests, meaning take art if you enjoy drawing or painting, take spirit class or dance class if you enjoy busting a move, take wildlife if you enjoy spending time in nature, take psychology if you enjoy learning about the human brain. Believe me when I say that doing this will ensure that your application tells a story about who you really are as a person, and it will also reveal that your passions and your interests aren't just superficial. Pro tip number three I have for you is don't wait until the last minute to engage in extracurriculars and community service. I mean, let's face it, it's definitely gonna look fishy if all of a sudden you start making a bunch of additions to your resume the summer before your senior year. That bonehead move will be indicative of the fact that you aren't really a passionate leader and public servant, but rather are just trying to fluff up your resume, make yourself look good, and do what you think colleges and scholarship organizations want to see you do. My pro tip number four is be an active participator in whatever extracurriculars you are involved in. In other words, it's a terrible approach for you to spread yourself super thin by trying to be involved in a wide variety of activities that you cannot truly invest in and commit yourself to. Because colleges and scholarship organizations make it a priority to look for students who are young leaders, it's important for you to be involved in extracurriculars in which you can make valuable contributions and eventually take on a significant role. Okay, pro tip number five I have for you is show dedication dedication to the extracurriculars you were involved in by demonstrating continuity of participation. And what I mean by this is don't just treat an activity as though it's a one-time thing, but rather you're going to want to stick with it for the long haul. For example, if you decide to be a counselor at a summer camp built around the mission of empowering youths to be leaders in society, don't just be a counselor at this camp for one summer. Instead, show commitment to the activity by going back and being a counselor for multiple summers in a row. Okay, moving on to pro tip number 6, I want you to know that doing expensive, exotic, and bougie activities isn't necessarily the answer. To get the attention of colleges and scholarship organizations, don't you think for one second that your resume has to be jam-packed with extraordinary activities. I mean, let's face it, sometimes it just isn't in the budget to fly across the world and volunteer in a tropical rainforest of Indonesia, no matter how passionate you might be about environmental conservation. Instead, your resume should showcase how extraordinary you are, regardless of where your experiences fall on the sweet and simple to exotic and expensive scale. And so the point I'm really trying to get at here is that colleges and scholarship organizations are gonna be impressed with the students who are resourceful, who take advantage of all that's at their fingertips and all that's at their disposal to better their surrounding world. This means that if you're passionate about saving the earth by combating deforestation efforts, and so you decide to hold a camp in your neighborhood to show little kids how to plant a garden, no matter how bland you might think that that activity is in comparison to planting trees in Indonesia as a part of a volunteer expedition, it's truly about how you present your experiences. In other words, never ever downplay your accomplishments and what you've done. Regardless of how simple your experiences might be, shed light on their compelling aspects by talking about how you positively impacted others and how you grew and developed as a leader and public servant, for example. Trust me when I say that it doesn't take having an expensive, bougie, or exotic experience to highlight your commitment to service and giving back to your community. Transitioning to pro tip number 7, this one is all about school involvement. And so school involvement is another layer of extracurricular engagement. And the reason that being a part of clubs and teams at your school is so important is because it allows you to show school pride and school spirit. Many universities, especially the highly selective ones, place a premium on admitting students who they know will embrace exploration of their interests as well as utilize their assets and strengths to positively impact their college community through involvement with organizations at the institution. Speaking of school clubs, they aren't just great because they allow us to have experiences that we can later write about during the scholarship and college application process, but they also give us the opportunity to take risks, try new things, get out of our comfort zone, discover as well as tap into our passions, and kill 2 birds with one stone by simultaneously accumulating service hours. Now, just some general tokens of advice to keep in mind when it comes to school involvement. You definitely don't want to overextend yourself by signing up for a dozen different clubs. In this situation, it's all about quality over quantity, meaning you should prioritize participation in clubs that are genuinely interesting to you, that you can see yourself sticking with for the long haul, and that you know you'll be able to make valuable contributions to. And of course, this might go without saying, but I just want to throw it out there that you should definitely not be afraid to start your own club if there's something that you really love to do that's not offered at your school. Now, the last thing I have for you in regards to this pro tip is I encourage you to check out your school website or to schedule a meeting with your school counselor to really familiarize yourself with and to learn more about the array of clubs and teams offered at your individual school. Pro tip number 8 I have for you is even though the demands of high school can be extremely overwhelming and stressful, from having to complete projects and homework assignments to worry about studying for various upcoming quizzes and tests and assessments, you cannot just give up extracurricular engagement. Whether you know it or not, being involved in activities that align with your passions and interests truly allow you to grow into your own by providing you with opportunities to develop invaluable skill sets pertaining to leadership and teamwork, for example, that you you might not otherwise gain if you were to only dedicate yourself to school and nothing else. With that said, it's vital that you're adaptable and that you really focus on finding that balance between your academics and your extracurriculars so that you don't end up spreading yourself too thin. And so what exactly does finding that balance entail? Well, to be completely honest, it primarily boils down to time management and self-discipline, meaning you should be prepared to productively spend every bit of free time you have, whether that's in the car, on the bus, early school arrival, during lunch, and you should also be prepared to cut the distractions and time traps out of your life when you're in the midst of handling your business. And last but not least, pro tip number 9, the pro tip we're going to be using to wrap up this video. This pro tip addresses the steps you should take and the avenues you should pursue to actually find out about various opportunities for extracurricular engagement. Obviously, my best recommendation for you, if you're really struggling, if you're really having to rack your brain, is to just do a simple Google search for different activities that align with your interests. Also, returning back to this idea of how important networking is, people that you know and have a good relationship with, whether that's your teacher, your counselor, your coach, a religious leader, a coworker, etc., you get the point. They can also inform you of different opportunities and different activities to get involved in, and they might even help you be able to secure them by putting in a good word for you or pulling some strings. Now, with all 9 pro tips out in the open, this is the perfect opportunity to put a temporary pin in our 2-part series all about extracurricular engagement and community service. With that said, I will be sure to see you in the next video for part 2 of this 2-part series, in which we're going to be closing everything up by discussing everything pertinent to community service. But before you go, I just want to give you a friendly reminder now to give this video a thumbs up if you didn't do it at the beginning, subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and also go ahead and hit that notification bell so that you don't miss a beat. And on that note, I will see you very soon. Alrighty, bye!